Yes, I've been studying the Namibian lockdown, and I think that Namibia is doing quite well because they have managed to come up with a document that outlines exactly, what their lockdown is about and how it is going to be carried out, and also the safety net of the general public, how the general public is going to operate, and during emergencies, what is going to be done and who is going to do what, which is very, very important. And they've also deployed their soldiers, but the way they've deployed their soldiers is like they've put them to carry out the essential services. Soldiers have been taken to be like relief workers or voluntary workers. And this is indeed a good thing, because when we look at soldiers, soldiers are meant to defend the country. But in this event, in this situation, soldiers can work as voluntary personnel, excess personnel that can aid government, help government in providing services to the nation. This is, of course, in addition to making sure that everybody else is adhering to the rules and regulations. But the way the Namibians have done it is quite good, because they have actually spelled out exactly what the soldiers should do. They are not taking away rights of the people. They are not taking over from the role of the police, because they are only coming in to help in the provision, in the spreading of information, as well as providing the necessary services that are needed in that country. So it is totally unlike in our own situation, where there is no definition whatsoever. And you will be surprised to see that because our soldiers are used for our security sector, they are used to be deployed and act like to be deployed to prevent things like demonstrations and so on and so forth. And they are used to holding civilians or citizens by force. And in this particular instance, if they do that, then they will actually be worsening the situation. They can actually exacerbate the situation because themselves, they are not sacred cows. They can also contract this disease and spread it. So that will lead to a situation where we, as a nation, we might fail to come out of this lockdown. It might be a lockdown and continue, and this 21-day lockdown can continue to be another 21 days and another 21 days, and still not correct the situation, because the measures that we are putting in place, they are not helpful at all. They are more like, where the regime is stopping demonstrations, which is not the situation. It should not be like that. And so I feel that the Namibian example is quite a good one. That's what I think.
Okay. I saw that the people were going out shopping. There were people queuing up at a municipality services hall. How does this, how can Zimbabwe learn from what happened in Namibia? People seem to want to go out.
Yes. There are a lot of measures which Namibians have done. They have allowed people to go out, but and maintaining certain social distances, some distances away from each other. Yes, people should stay indoors, but they're allowed to go to the shops to buy. Maybe one person can go to the shops. They're allowed to go to the bank, one person, two people. They're allowed to go and do certain few things that, provided they are, they are not crowded and they do it. There is quite a lot to learn from the Namibian example, because I think, when you do that, taking into consideration what people require, then people will understand you. People will respect it. But if you put people in a tight corner where they don't even understand why they should be doing what, and you don't provide alternatives to say, okay, here is an alternative. In Namibia, they've allowed tuck shops to open. They've allowed these convenience shops in different corners to open, and food distribution companies are allowed to deliver in those tuck shops and to allow people to access those foodstuffs. And they've also set some people to move around, making sure that everybody has got what they require. If they don't have, to bring forward that information to government so that government can help, can see what else can be done to those people. That is perfect, because you need to put in place a safety net for the people, which Zimbabwe does not seem to be doing. That is very bad.
Okay. Now, let's look at Zimbabwe, South Africa, Namibia. They've got lockdowns. But Botswana, Lesotho, Swaziland, Mozambique, and the other countries, like Zambia, do they have lockdowns?
Yes. I'm not sure about a country like Lesotho, but Swaziland has got a lockdown. They are just following exactly what's happening in South Africa. And so the king also announced that, no, there should be a lockdown. And I'm reliably informed that they also have that. But Mozambique does not have, and other countries, I don't think they have. But yes, that should not affect us at this moment in time. If our lockdown was going to be done properly, that would not affect us, in that we just close our borders. But then in future, after the lockdown, then anyone coming into the country has to go through the 14-day quarantine and so on and so forth. And that will then push them to also do possibly the same thing. So I think that should not affect us at this moment in time, as long as we closed all our borders. I think that should be okay. But our problem is what we put in place is not practical. Our leaders, they do not have people at heart. If this was election, they would be running around, putting billboards, wasting resources because they want to be voted. But now here is a pandemic, here is an epidemic. They are not doing the same. The effort that they are putting is zero as compared to the effort that they put when they want to lie to us and conduct elections, fake elections for that matter. So this is worrying. This is so worrisome.
Okay. The lockdown of Zimbabwe started after the lockdown of South Africa. So there's a gap there, a number of days. Will South Africa open the border to Zimbabwe if the lockdown in Zimbabwe is not yet over?
Yeah, well, the South Africa might open the borders, but as long as Zimbabwe is still on lockdown, I think then the Zimbabwean side will still be closed, unless if they still allow people to go outside. But I think practically, South Africa was not supposed to allow that period, which is in between, yes, can still be maintained until the Zimbabwe lockdown is over. So that's what I think.
So there's actually a possibility that when South Africa finish their lockdown, and then Zimbabwe is not finished their lockdowns, the borders there could remain closed.
Yes, there is likelihood that the borders might continue to be closed for a little bit longer period than that which is anticipated. Yes, they might allow people, Zimbabweans who are in South Africa, to go back home, but not the other way around. I can foresee that the borders might continue to be closed for a little longer period, because then after 21 days, they have to assess and see if there are still new infections and so on and so forth. And from the way things are happening, I don't think the 21 days is actually enough. It might need to be a little longer than that.
And the border with Mozambique, if they don't go on lockdown?
Yeah, obviously, Zimbabwe, when it finishes lockdown after 21 days, provided there are positive results, then they will have to open borders. But then the best thing would be, whenever anyone is coming into Zimbabwe, they must go under quarantine for 14 days and be assessed. Otherwise, if they don't do that, then new infections will start coming in.
So do you think Southern Africa, as a region, they've responded properly to this pandemic, given the inter-movements which are there?
I don't think I don't think they've done it properly, because as regional leaders, Southern African regional leaders, they should have done a quick conference call, from their countries and say, no, let's do it together. What are the conditions? And then they share the information. South Africa, it produces this, and Zimbabwe, they do something that is more like uniform in the whole region, something like that. Okay, let's lock down. Let's leave the goods and services coming in like this and that, But it seems it's now one country for its own and God for us all. They should not have done that. They are a unit, and I would have thought, these leaders were so united. They would have. It's just talking like you and me. We are far away from each other, but we are talking. So they should have just spoken, conference call together, and agreed on fundamentals, and do the lockdowns at once, and like that. That's what I would have expected.
Okay, then my last question is with regards to the United States of America. The epicenter of this pandemic is now in the United States, where so far 2,000 people have died, and hundreds, I think it's almost hitting a very big number there. But they don't have a lockdown. Why is the difference in approach?
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a lack of something, because this is why the pandemic is even increasing in the United States of America. I was of the opinion that they should have done a lockdown in terms of their states, possibly, or provinces, something like that. They would have done some kind of lockdowns where there is no inter-movement for a certain period, because the longer they go, the worse this situation might happen. So I think this is why the new infections continue to grow, to rise.